Hey, it's Michael. I look a little sloppy right now, but it's because I just got back from some exercise. I always exercise in the morning. I like to do everything in the morning, man. I wish mornings were like 10 hours long because I do my best thinking in the morning. I like to move in the morning. I like to be influenced in the morning when I'm sharp and thinking clearly. And the reason for this video is I wanted to share a few of my influences that may inspire you if you were able to check them out and see if they resonated with you. I can tell you a funny story about influences that when I used to be in the music business, I toured the country in a rock band with my brothers, by the way, and we opened for acts like Rick Springfield and Corey Hart and Joan Jett. We were called the Caruso Brothers Band. If you search it on YouTube, you can find photos of Michael with big hair. Anyway, we had a great time, and we did a shit ton of interviews back in the day with college newspapers and radio stations and media. And everybody always asked, you could set your watch to it, man. They always asked the same question. They asked, who are your biggest influences? Because this is a thing that you do in the music business. You always ask the musician, how did you curate your sound and come up with who you are today? And what was particularly funny to me about this at the time was everybody's answer was always the same. Everybody always said the Beatles. And if you were edgy, you said the Rolling Stones, or the Kinks or whatever. But in the speaking business, nobody ever asks me who my influences are. And I just think that's hysterical because it's basically it's the creative process. It's the same thing. I'm influenced by these disparate sources of information, whether it's back in the day, it was music, it was bands. Today, these are thought leaders, podcasters, authors, celebrities, broadcasters, people like this. And the stuff comes into my head, their information comes into my head, and it's curated, right? And I never use other people's content, especially not without attribution. But I'm influenced by it. And it was Jim Rohn who said that, you are the 5 people you spend the most time with. So in any particular period of time, I become a little bit more like those people. Now, I don't cop their styles any more than the Caruso Brothers Band copped the Beatles, right? And by the way, back in the day, we would always say the Beatles, and then we would cite a couple of obscure bands for credibility, right? And you got bonus points if you mentioned bands that the other person agreed with. If the other person liked them, that was, that was like getting a big like on Facebook, These days, I don't give a crap if you agree with me or not. So I wanted to mention 5 voices that have spoken to me in the recent period of time that in some way, and I can't really put my finger on this, but they've allowed me to be who I am. They've allowed my voice to find meaning and resonance with other people. And sometimes you'll hear those people through me, but sometimes you'll be surprised. I'll give you the names here in a second, and you'll say, I don't hear him at all in you, or I don't hear her at all in your voice. And that's fine. I mean, like I told you, I'm not plagiarizing. I'm not copying their style. I have my own style. But I would be lying if I didn't tell you that things that I take in, right? Sting in The Police, speaking of music, used to say to his bandmates, I'm going to tell you what to play, what I envisioned for this song, right? Synchronicity, this song Synchronicity. And then I want you to make it your own. In other words, I'm giving you the chord progression, or I'm giving you the tempo, and I want you to make the part your own. And that's kind of what we all do as speakers. Even if we're using 100% original content, we are influenced by other voices. So the 5 people I want to turn you on to right now, and you may know one of the names, you may know all of the names, have been speaking to me. Before I give you the list of 5 names, I want to tell you about a guy by the name of Sidney J. Harris. And he also spoke to me, but this was 40 and 50 years ago now. Yeah, probably. Sidney J. Harris was a columnist, and what he did was churn out multiple articles per week on a wide variety of topics. And I didn't know it at the time, but Sidney J. Harris was impressing me with his ability to create content. And this is so important in the speaking business, in who we are as people that have a certain platform, in the business. And I didn't know it. This was way before YouTube, way before Facebook. But he was generating content, and he was a content machine. And now I'm a content machine. So my hat's off to Sidney J. Harris way back in the day, who taught me how to be fresh and how to continually present current events and topics of interest that would be palatable to people and useful to people and appealing to people. Thank you, Sidney J. Now, the 5 people I want to talk about are Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson, Thomas Sowell, Christopher Hitchens, and Oprah. I'll tell you what appeals to me about each of these personalities and what may appeal to you and help you find your voice. So Rogan is really good at something called long-form conversation. Now, he doesn't interview celebrities per se, although I noticed he just did an interview with Rob Lowe. He tends to interview thought leaders on difficult topics. And unlike a lot of talk shows where somebody's got to win and somebody's got to lose, Rogan's okay with a tie. I mean, that's interesting for a guy who comes from the mixed martial arts. He's not interested in winning the debate or winning the argument. He's interested in a free exchange of ideas. And those exchanges often go 3 hours. And I'll listen to every damn minute of them on my headset, not this one, because it falls out too easy, but on my headset while I'm out for a run, which is what inspired me to do this session for you today. I love how he thinks on his feet. I love how nobody has to win the argument. And I love that it goes for 3 hours. It is fascinating to me how he winds through these long-form conversations and makes them interesting. It's no wonder to me that Spotify just picked up his podcast for $100 million. Them's athlete numbers, man. $100 million from Spotify for his podcast. He is worth having a look at. The second person I want to talk about is Jordan Peterson, who ironically I first heard on a Joe Rogan podcast. Jordan Peterson, he has an academic background. He comes from Canada. And I admire Jordan Peterson, not for his bedside manner, but for the way that he seems to have total recall. He's very, very sharp. And some people find him hard to listen to, but I just admire a guy who can, he's like got a hard drive spinning in his head all the time, and he just pulls up this information, facts, figures, names, documents, books, philosophers, everybody. And he does it in real time. It's fascinating to hear Jordan Peterson speak. My third influencer is also comes from an academic background, but a much different generation. Thomas Sowell is now over 90 years old, still a pretty sharp guy. And I admire Thomas for his academic approach to, again, difficult topics. And Thomas is dogmatic. He's got more of a political slant. That's not what I find appealing about him. But I like how dogmatic he is and how he backs up everything he says with evidence, with information, with statistics. And the statistics don't seem to be cooked. They seem to be fair assessment of what's really happening. None of this gaslighting nonsense that we see from today's thought leaders, right? So Thomas Sowell, Sowell, check him out. The fourth of the 5 names is Christopher Hitchens. I miss Christopher. He's passed on now, but he's the most cogent thinker of this or perhaps any generation. Fabulous in terms of agreement and research. Rest in peace, Christopher. You were the best, man. And then finally, Oprah Winfrey. Cannot leave her out of the mix. Her ability to parlay her platform into so many revenue streams and ways to help people is just so admirable. Books, recommending books, her shopping line. She has radio stations and channels and all this, all from a TV show, all from her personality, essentially. A gifted public speaker. Bravo, Oprah. Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson, Thomas Sowell, Christopher Hitchens, and Oprah are my biggest influences. Check with me in a couple of months and they may change. Thanks, everybody.